The Rise of Skywalker is easily one of the worst Star Wars movies, and to figure out why that is, all you have to do is just watch it. I mean, it is just chock full of terrible scenes. However, there's one scene that I believe stands out among the masses, one scene that truly epitomizes the stupidity, plot conveniences, and random garbage that this movie has. And that scene involves a Mary Sue, an obliterated Death Star, and a random freaking dagger. If you've ever seen the movie before, then you know exactly which scene I'm talking about.
Wayfinder's there.
But to really explain the problem with this scene, first we have to go back and explain how we got here in the first place. It all starts out when our heroes need to get to a secret planet that no one has ever heard of to kill a guy that died 20 years ago. Basically, Palpatine has returned from the dead, and the way he did that was, don't ask. But Jedwerd, that's kind of a big deal. I said don't ask! He returned, and now he's hiding out on a secret Sith planet called Exegol, which can only be found with a Sith Wayfinder, and only 2 of those exist in the entire galaxy. Kind of weird that even though the planet is impossible to find, an entire fleet was somehow constructed there, and the stands are completely full of screaming fans, but you know what, whatever. I mean, it's a great sign that we're like, 45 seconds into this video, and already the movie is insanely stupid. What more could you expect from the sequels? What more? Kylo Ren has one of the Wayfinders, which is how he found Palpatine in the first place at the beginning of the movie, but now Rey and them need to find the other one, which is somewhere in the galaxy. Also, this isn't a big deal, but it is kind of funny to me that when Rey tells Princess Leia she's gonna go find the Wayfinder and stop the Emperor, Leia's like, no, don't do that.
I need to finish what Luke started. Find Exegol. Find the Emperor. No.
No other solutions, no alternatives, just straight up, nah, it'll be fine. I don't know why I stole the Critical Drinker's thing there, or tried his accent terribly, but it seemed fitting. Anyway, unimportant, I just thought it was funny. Apparently, Luke had started to hunt for Exegol years earlier, but had given up like halfway through for whatever reason. Probably wanted to devote more of his precious time to down in that sweet, sweet green alien milk, and you know what, who could blame him? The place where his trail went cold was a random desert planet, because if there's one thing that Star Wars fans haven't seen enough of and want more of, it's desert planets. We always need to see more of those. Everyone's dying to see more sand in the Star Wars universe. A brilliant choice, JJ, brilliant. When Rey and Poe and all of them do actually get to the desert planet, they stumble upon a rare festival that the locals are putting on. And when I say rare, I mean it happens once every 42 years. I mean, what a remarkable stroke of luck. They walk around the festival for a little bit, and Rey gets a random necklace from a local, but then all of a sudden, she enters into her funky Force Diad thing that she has with Kylo Ren, where they can do this intergalactic FaceTime call from across the galaxy. You know how it goes, whatever. They don't really talk about much, but the important part is when Kylo Ren grabs the necklace off Rey's neck and cuts the connection. I do have to give them props here. This is a creative way of explaining how the First Order ends up finding them, because we already have enough plot conveniences in this movie, and it would be insane if the Stormtroopers just like randomly showed up on this planet in the middle of nowhere and started shooting. I mean, well done, JJ. This was a smart way to use this connection that's already been established. I gotta give it to you. So the First Order shows up, and our heroes start running away, and then out of the blue, Lando Calrissian turns up out of nowhere and helps them get into cover. And you know what? I'm just gonna say, it's great to see him. It's nice they brought him back. I'm happy to see him. Apparently, he was with Luke when they were searching for the Wayfinder all those years ago, but then Luke got bored and decided to go back to the green alien milk, and Lando decided to just stay here and live on this random desert planet for the last decade or so. I don't know for sure. And the reason for that is because they literally never address what Lando's been doing here for so long. But I guess he decided that scorching hot sand planets were better than sleek white hallways in the clouds. More likely, in my opinion, the writers just wanted to throw Lando into the plot somewhere for fan service, and this was the best they could do. It kind of feels out of place, but he doesn't overstay his welcome, and again, I like seeing him, so it's not too bad. Anyway, the First Order arrives, and Lando stays behind for some reason, but everyone else gets out of town on some speeders. They have a long, drawn-out chase, and of course, who could forget the infamous "they fly now" scene, but I don't want to focus on that too much. We already know how bad that is. They end up in some quicksand that drops them down into a cave, and once everyone's accounted for, they all start walking around, and I gotta give this movie credit for one more thing: the constant strays that C-3PO keeps catching.
I do not want to know what made these tunnels.
Judging by the circumference of the tunnel walls, there aren't.
I said I do not want to know. Not.
See, I found C-3PO annoying as frick for the longest time now, and this is one of the few movies where he just gets dissed by the main characters over and over again, usually Poe, and I love to see it. Regardless, they find out that the guy who had the clue that Luke and Lando were looking for all those years ago had actually fallen down here too, and had died. All I can say is that it's very, very convenient that the people looking for the clue also happen to fall into the same cave as the guy they were looking for, especially because the only way in is this random patch of black sand. Also very fortunate that the only way they happen to find it is because their speeders blew up and catapulted them completely unhurt onto that patch of sand. Quite lucky, some would say. Very, very convenient. To me, the problem isn't that plot conveniences happened in the first place, because every movie has to have a few of those for the plot to work, but it's just the sheer amount of them that The Rise of Skywalker has. It sure is lucky that there are 2 wayfinders to find this unfindable planet, and wow, how convenient that this festival happened today for the first time in 42 years, and boy oh boy, thank heavens that Lando Calrissian is here and has been here for a decade for some reason, and very fortunate that our heroes happened to literally fall into the exact pit they needed to, and so on and so forth. It's one of the many exhausting features of this movie that makes it so hard to get through. Well, thank goodness that at least we have the nice weather now to distract us from garbage like this scene. It's so nice to be able to go outside, and where I'm at, it's officially t-shirt weather, which is actually awesome. But along with great weather, spring also brings change for me. New routines and habits, longer days, and more social commitments. In fact, every spring that I can remember has also come with some form of anxiety, depending on what problems or changes I was facing in my life at the time. Maybe some of you guys can relate. Do you feel more anxious during these changes? I'm betting that, yeah, you do. And if so, then I really think you should check out the sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a platform that is literally made to help connect you with a great therapist who can provide you with support for anxiety. In fact, 69% of members report improved anxiety symptoms after 6 weeks of therapy on BetterHelp. It's really easy to start, just fill out a simple questionnaire and you will match with a therapist in just a few days. BetterHelp makes sure that the therapists on the platform are well qualified and there's a great customer support team there to help you if you have any questions at all. And if it turns out that for whatever reason you're just not vibing with the therapist you get, you can switch therapists at any time for no extra cost. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. Let BetterHelp help you rule your anxiety so it doesn't rule you. Go to betterhelp.com/Jedwerd or click on the link in the description for a discount on your first month of therapy. That's betterhelp.com/Jedwerd or the link in the description. Go check them out, and a huge thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get back to what is arguably the craziest part of this whole sequence of events, randomly finding the important sacred dagger in the sand of the cave. Basically, they find this guy's rotting skeleton and there's stuff all around it. I mean, gear, clothes, fingers, the works. And yet somehow BB-8 and Rey beeline over to this random dagger completely buried in the sand. Wouldn't they have looked at the more obvious stuff before? Like, why would you give any attention at all to this thing? It's completely buried, for crying out loud. There's stuff on the surface that you could look at. I know, it's a nitpick, but these things do add up. Anyway, when Rey picks it up, she says the classic, "Horrible things have happened with this dagger." Meanwhile, holding the Youngling Killer 3000, which I mean, what can you even say? It's classic, just classic. How are you gonna be holding a tool that slaughtered dozens of children and still think this dagger is especially bad? Like, what's the logical equivalency there? That's insane. But wait, maybe something is looking up, because it turns out that C-3PO actually can read the dagger, and he says it leads them to the Sith Wayfinder. Praise be, maybe we can stop this endless treasure hunt now.
I know exactly where the Wayfinder is. Unfortunately, it is written in the runic language of the Sith.
So what?
My programming forbids me from translating it.
You can't read it out loud. Okay, so you're telling me that when 9-year-old Anakin Skywalker made C-3PO on Tatooine out of scraps, he made sure that 3PO's programming in regards to translating was in line with Republic law. And wait, wasn't Tatooine like barely governed by the Republic in the first place, mostly ruled by Hutt warlords? This whole thing makes no sense. Even the law itself, which bans the translator droids from reading this ancient Sith language, is confusing. So you're allowed to program droids to be able to understand it, but not say it? Then why let them read it in the first place? And as a matter of fact, how do the people who made these droids even have access to this language? If the Republic had banned and restricted it that much, wouldn't they want it like removed from translator droids' bases? This whole plot point is genuinely stupid and literally only exists to extend the runtime of this movie by making these scumsuckers go on yet another side quest. And sure enough, the gang decides that their best course of action is to set off and find someone who can translate the dagger for them. So they head over to the guy who had the dagger's ship to go look for that someone. Now, call me crazy, maybe there's some like obvious lore that I'm just overlooking from being stupid, but couldn't 3PO just tell them where to go? Like, okay, he can't directly translate the dagger, sure, but they made it sound like all the translation does in the first place is reveal the location of the Wayfinder. So if that's the case, and he knows where the Wayfinder is from reading the dagger, why couldn't he just tell them where to go? How could you possibly program him against that? It feels like, and I could be wrong here, but it just feels like the writers overlooked the super obvious and logical solution to the problem just for the sole purpose of just dragging out this long MacGuffin hunt even longer. And that is really freaking annoying. Like, there is only so much of this that the audience can take, and it is getting really pushed to its limits. Anyway, a bunch of garbage happens after that. Chewie gets captured, Kylo Ren almost gets blown up, Rey randomly uses Force Lightning accidentally, yada yada, blah blah blah, typical sequel stuff, but that's all a topic for another time. They go to a planet called Kijimi, and there they know a guy who can override 3PO's programming and make him translate the dagger. Again, this option is way longer and way more unnecessary than just having 3PO tell you where to go, but whatever. They wipe his memory, and surprise, surprise, the only thing that the dagger said was the exact location of the Wayfinder. That is literally it. So I say, once again, like a voice in the wilderness crying out, prepare ye the way of the Lord, why couldn't C-3PO have just taken them there himself? I don't get it, it makes no sense. Genuinely, this movie can't have the characters do one logical thing, and after an hour or two of that, it starts to get really old and really hard to watch. Luckily though, we are coming up on the climax of the stupidity of this whole dagger plot, which may or may not be a relief, because things somehow get even more nonsensical than they have been up to this point. More stupid stuff happens. Oh, Chewie's alive, they go rescue him, Hux is a spy. Wait. Space Hitler, the guy who killed billions of people, that's the spy? I mean, what you know what? Don't get bogged down, Jedwerd, don't get bogged down. Stick to the video topic, you're about to get to the good part. Although, I will say, this scene right here is actually unbelievably tough. When the Falcon pulls around and they turn on the thrusters and absolutely rinse the stormtroopers, that is a sick visual. Credit where credit is due. But now let's get to the thing that you all clicked on this video for, the height of stupidity from the sequel trilogy. The gang flies to the general location of the Wayfinder that C-3PO told them, which is a moon of Endor where the second Death Star crashed. And speaking of crashes, they also crash land on that, John, but no matter. They set off over a hill and come upon the enormous, some would say massive, remains of the Death Star lying in the water. Miles away, enormous waves crashing all around it, it is a sight to behold for sure. The problem is that the Wayfinder is in there somewhere and it would take forever to actually find it. This is a dilemma to be sure. So what does Rey do? She suddenly has the bright idea to pull out the aforementioned dagger. Yeah, like that'll do anything. How's that thing gonna help you? It's not like the grooves and nicks on it are gonna line up perfectly with a random chunk of rubble and show you exactly where you need to go.
The Wayfinder's there.
Holy plot convenience, Batman. That is genuinely absurd. Like everything else in this movie can be overlooked as brilliant writing compared to this. You're telling me that a dagger made literally centuries ago somehow can line up perfectly with this random chunk of debris from the Death Star, which, let me remind you, was destroyed centuries after the dagger was made, and reveal the position of the Wayfinder? I've heard more coherent thoughts from the Looney Tunes. This is like finding a knife in King Tut's tomb, lining it up with the ruins of the World Trade Center, and having it lead to Elon Musk's sacred Tesla factory over in the mountains of Venezuela or something. Like that's the equivalent in real life. That's insane. But just for the sake of the argument, let's assume that the dagger could theoretically line up with the Death Star and reveal the Wayfinder. I mean, after all, even though the dagger is ancient, maybe someone went to the collapsed Death Star, kind of recently, and carved the grooves and nicks into it in order for it to match. Even if that was true, how would you ever figure out where the frick the dagger lines up from? You would need to stand in the exact right spot from the exact right angle, which, let me remind you, the writing on the dagger never specifically specifies, it just says that you have to look from the south shore, and only then would the dagger ever line up with what you were looking for. Plus, let's not forget, the destroyed wreckage in a huge ocean never stays exactly the way it was, and has likely been shifting around and moving constantly since it got there, due to waves and storms and whatnot. And even if the debris didn't move and you did somehow stand in the exact correct spot by some genuine miracle, I'm not even lying, but it had to be divine intervention, you'd have to get the perspective exactly right to even see what it was trying to show you. If you held the dagger just a little too close to your face or a little too far away, nothing would line up correctly and you'd never find the Wayfinder. And finally, let me just completely sum up how crazy this is with one simple sentence. What if Rey was left-handed? Seriously, what if Rey was left-handed? I mean, if she was left-handed, then she would never have held the dagger correctly, and it would never line up, no matter how many areas she tried or how much she moved around. That fact alone shows how absurd this is. It is the epitome of lazy writing that forcefully drags the viewer along for the ride. And actually, that's what I'd say to describe this whole plotline. From the search for the dagger, to the discovery of it, to using it to find the Wayfinder, the whole sequence of events is just an incomprehensible set of plot conveniences, none of which make any real sense, and all of which seem to exist solely to drag the plot out for as long as they possibly can. If the only way to stop Palpatine had been to summon a three-legged capybara that contained the undead spirit of King Vaughn within it, I'm more than certain that someone would have just had it laying around in their ship somewhere for the heroes to find, because that's the type of storytelling this is. It's lazy, it's unoriginal, it's insulting to the viewer's intelligence, and it's just bad writing. And the worst part is that it somehow just doesn't get any better from here, because right after this, we got the Battle of Exegol, arguably one of the worst fights in all of Star Wars. But I went over that whole shebang in this video right here, which I really think you should check out. It's concise, it goes over all the flaws, and overall I'm pretty proud of it. Thanks for watching, boys. Have a good one. See you later. Bye.